Welcome to American Gypsy Podcast. I am your host, Gypsy, and today I have a guest, Jeff Patterson. He is a meditation and martial arts practitioner who has a method called the Yielding Warrior Method. Welcome to the show, Jeff.
Thank you very much for having me. I've been looking forward to coming and meeting you.
Look forward to having you here. So I guess before we get started, can you introduce yourself, a little bit about your background?
Yeah, I've been in the meditative arts now for almost 36 years, and I was introduced to the meditative practices in a bit of a roundabout way. As a younger guy, I was very much into Western boxing, and I used to go to this boxing gym just a few blocks down the street here from my academy back in the late 80s and early 90s. And at a boxing gym, I'm not sure if you're familiar with how they run them, but it's not like your traditional fitness style class. They usually have a handful of coaches in the gym, and each one of those coaches might have 3 or 5 fighters that they work with. Well, at this particular gym, there was one coach there who was a very well-known, respected coach. He had created national and world champion level fighters, and I really wanted to get to spend some time with him. So I would always show up at the gym when I knew he was going to be there and try to get him to notice me and work very hard. And after about 3 or 4 months of following him around, he started showing me some things and taking me on as a fighter. And it was only about 2 or 3 weeks of training with him, and he said something to me that changed my life in so many ways, in that he told me if I really wanted to be a good boxer, I should start doing meditation and Tai Chi. And at the time, I was this young kid thinking, isn't Tai Chi for like old people in the park? How's that going to help me be a better fighter? And I took on the practice, and it changed my life in many ways. And since then, I've had thousands of students come through the academy, and I've literally heard hundreds of stories of how the meditative arts has positively influenced people's lives, which has kind of been my main source of motivation in writing my last couple books and creating this online meditation program, The Yielding Warrior, and just kind of given me the inspiration to what I've been doing for the last few years.
Yeah, I have been seeing I see those people with the Tai Chi. It usually is older people, but I don't think a lot of people understand what the benefits of that is. So I guess, what benefits did it provide you?
There's so many. There's literally hundreds of them. Uh, Within the meditative arts, there's 5 directions of the practice. We have our athletic or our combative style of practices that help us be better in our performance. We have the therapeutic side, the medical side, the philosophical side, and also the meditative or spiritual side. And depending on what's drawing you to the practice, you could follow any one of those paths. Some of the reasons why people come to the meditative arts is to help with their health and longevity. Maybe they want to be around longer to watch their grandkids grow up or be more mobile as they get into older age. Or maybe they're looking to improve their performance. A lot of professional athletes these days will use the meditative arts to get to higher levels of performance, which is kind of what my boxing coach was referring to back when I was 19. And so there's so many different reasons. Some people come because they have stress disorders or they're dealing with depression, and meditation helps them through this. And there's just really an endless list of different benefits you can get from incorporating the practice.
But particularly for fighters, what do you think is beneficial about meditation or Tai Chi?
Well, many things, and one of them is the yielding concept. And in my most recent book called The Yielding Warrior, I'll briefly kind of describe what I mean by yielding. Is there's 3 different styles of yielding. There's physical yielding, mental yielding, and emotional yielding, and all 3 of those are beneficial for a combatter and any kind of athlete, no matter what sport you play. Physical yielding is the idea that, I push you, you push me, whoever's the bigger, stronger person with the most leverage eventually is going to push the other person over. But with yielding, instead of us seeing who the bigger meathead is, when you push me, I get out of the way of that force. And now I can respond with less effort. So I'm not trying to butt heads with you and see if I'm bigger and stronger than you. Now, it's obvious how this could be beneficial in combat athletes or people who are coming up against people who are bigger and stronger than them. This is where it starts to get really interesting because in order to be good at physical yielding, a lot of things have to come into play. You need to be well rooted. The lower part of your body needs to be strong and flexible so you can change your central equilibrium without getting tight. The body has to be relaxed, the breath has to be calm, and the mind has to be present. Once you start to see those things more clearly inside yourself, you also start to see them more clearly in other people. And this is where we move into mental yielding. Say, for example, we're having a conversation and I say something that unsettles you, and I pick up on it right from the beginning. It's a lot easier to adjust the conversation and keep us in a happy place than if I'm not paying attention to that. And pretty soon I'm so far off track, you want to knock me upside the head. And so learning how to use yielding in all of our interactions is extremely powerful. One, in that you're just being more considerate, which is something we should all try to do a little bit more of. And two, it allows you to be strategic in that it helps you guide conversations and interactions to a positive outcome with the least amount of resistance. Now, this is great for relationships, but it's also good in business and sales and negotiations. I mean, there's so many different ways that you can apply this. Then next, we have what we call emotional yielding. And emotional yielding is very much like mental yielding, but it's with your own interpersonal conflicts. So you think about oftentimes something will happen to us and we'll respond and we'll go down this path. And we might get an hour, a day, a week down that road and realize maybe that wasn't the best choice. But with yielding and our heightened awareness through these meditative practices, if we're able to notice that imbalance or that decision making time right from the beginning, a lot of times we can step back and maybe analyze the situation and make a more educated decision that might take us down a different path. And I've been explaining this idea of yielding for years. I've been running this academy for 30 years now. And oftentimes, what I'll hear people say is, it makes a lot of sense. I use yielding all the time. And I would agree with that in that I think everybody, it's impossible to not use some degree of yielding in your life. However, it's kind of like, if you or I were to walk into a crime scene with a detective who's been on the job for 30 years, he would see things about the series of events and the timeline that I know at least I would have no clue of. The meditative arts helps us see things inside of ourselves and inside of other people that most people will go through their entire lives and never have any clue of. And that's why they're so valuable because they help you get that extra few percent and that's where all the magic's at. With you think about athletes, it's easy to take a group of disciplined athletes with a good coach and get them to 85% of their potential. But to get them to 90%, 95%, 97%, now it's almost reaching that magical state where you're talking about people like Michael Jordan or Kobe Bryant, who you watch them play and it's just amazing. Well, to get to that 95, 96, 97% in your awareness internally and externally, I feel like you can't do that without some form of a meditative practice.
Mm. Okay. So what is your goal when you're sitting down and meditating? Because I know there's a lot of different types of meditation practices and techniques. What is your goal when you're sitting down to meditate?
Well, that's a bit of a deep question to answer because there are so many methods, and I don't have one specific method that I recommend.
Mm.
Once you start learning how to build an evolving practice, I break down the different modalities of practice into three areas. We have ritual practices, active practices, and philosophical practices. Ritual practices are where you set time aside every day and you do your 20 minutes a day or your half an hour a day or whatever that is for you. Maybe it's 2 hours a day, whatever that is.
Mhm.
And a ritual practice could be a form of sitting meditation, breath work. It could be standing meditation. It could be a qigong set or a tai chi form. I mean, there's many different things that we could use in that time frame. The most important thing with a ritual practice is that you do it every day. It's kind of like you brush your teeth, you never miss. And one of the Dalai Lama once said, everybody should meditate for 20 minutes a day. Unless you're too busy, then you should meditate for an hour. And I love that saying, in that, we should all take that time to just reconnect with who we are. In today's society, we get so caught up with distractions and things taking us this way and that way. And, you go out in society, and oftentimes we're forced to have walls up and almost as if we're wearing a mask, because maybe we don't want to show our true feelings, or maybe say something that might hurt somebody's feeling, but it's how we really feel inside. And because we do this all of the time, oftentimes we get so used to living this way that we look at ourselves in the mirror and we're still wearing that mask. And the meditative arts and developing this idea is one of those things that brings us back to who we really are and staying connected to our roots, so we can really
Mm.
express from the core of who we are rather than putting on a show, if you will. And so once we have a ritual practice, then we want to integrate active practices into our day. And active practices are great because they can be done in as little as 60 seconds or just a couple minutes. And we put those into our day as much as possible to help us start living the meditation lifestyle rather than have it be a hobby that you do once in a while. And an active practice could be as simple as counting out 10 breaths, or maybe doing some spinal rotations, or maybe doing a simple movement practice for a few repetitions. As we do this on a regular basis throughout the day, we start staying more connected and more aware and more in tune with what we're doing. And then lastly, we have philosophical practices. And philosophical practices can be used in either ritual-based practices or active practices. And by utilizing all three of these areas, we start to develop a core fundamental foundation for our meditation practice. And as time goes by, that's evolving and growing, and we start understanding the science behind what we're doing, so we can use different active practices to change our state if we're feeling depleted, or if we want to feel energized, or whatever that is, and be very strategic about why we're using these different methods.
Mm. You brought up an interesting perspective of meditation helping you become more authentic. Why do you think? I know that meditation brings on like a time to be more introspective. But why do you think it gives us the confidence to be more authentic? Just picking your brain
Well,
about that.
yeah, no, that's an interesting question, and that I think it's kind of interesting to explore that. In that, if you ever have done anything creative, like you're a writer, or you're a musician, or you're an artist, where you try to do that and you've got the TV blaring and you're stressing about something that happened at work, and maybe you and your significant other are in an argument, and you go try to be creative and think about something that you could produce that could have much value. I would bet that it's one in a million times that something good can actually come out of that scenario. The meditative arts help you quiet all that down and come back to your core, so you can be creative and you can come from your heart and from your soul and really express yourself in ways that you can't when you're so distracted. Having this ability to live your life this way and not get so caught up in these distractions and learning how to bring yourself back to center adds a lot of value in that type of scenario.
I know like a lot of people struggle with consistency when it comes to meditation. I know you know, I go on and off between my consistency. Um, do you feel like there's benefit to meditating, consistently, whether it's every day, several times a week? And then also, do you feel like the length of time you spend on your meditation has more benefit, as of like 15 minutes versus an hour meditation? Do you feel like there's a difference?
The most important thing with incorporating the meditative arts is doing a little bit every day. And for teaching, I've been teaching for over 30 years. That's one of the things that I've always struggled with is getting students to see the value in developing a daily ritual and sticking to it and making it part of the way they live their life rather than a hobby that they do once in a while. And so I always recommend for new practitioners before taking on the practice, take some time and think about, why am I being inspired to do a meditative practice? Do I want to improve my health? Do I want to watch my grandkids go up? Do I want to stay more mobile? Do I want to take the stress out of my life and learn how to deal with anxiety or depression? Do I want to improve my performance? And then think about why those things are important to you and go like 3, 4, 5 layers deep on each one of those and really have some things that are motivating to you that you want to get away from and that you want to go towards. Now, tomorrow morning, when that alarm goes off and you feel like, I'm just going to hit the snooze button, I'll meditate tomorrow, you have more reasons to get out of bed and make that part of who you are. And as far as the time, I recommend doing at least 20 minutes a day. I think that's a minimum time for a ritual practice. You don't need to retire to a cave and meditate for the rest of your life, but if you can at least do 20 minutes a day and be consistent with that, you're going to see a lot of benefits from that. And I've had thousands of students come through the academies through the academy through the years, and of the students that I have that listen to that and take that advice to heart and do at least a 20-minute ritual a day and integrate these active and philosophical practices into their life, if they stay consistent with that for at least a year, they'll do the meditative arts for the rest of their life. And I bet that's probably 97, 98% of the time. You'll see so many benefits in that short amount of time that it's way worth your effort to do it.
Mm. Can you talk about your academy and what inspired you to start that and what kind of things you help people with?
Yeah, so at the academy here, we have an external art program and an internal art program. And when I say external arts, I mean the more um combative style martial arts, like we do Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and Muay Thai and Western boxing, Eskrima. And then we have our meditative art program where we pull things from sitting meditation, the Yichuan standing meditation, Qigong, from Tai Chi, from different breathing exercises. And people come from all different reasons to do this, and it's not all, most of the people that come in here, they're coming, maybe they just want to focus on Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu or they just want to focus on the meditative arts. And so it's a pretty wide range of reasons why people come in.
Do you feel like I know group meditations are becoming a popular thing. Do you feel like there's benefits to doing group meditation versus meditating alone?
I think having a group style class is very beneficial in that you start getting into a community with other people that you can see. Maybe there's people in the community that have been doing it for 30 years and some people that are new, and you can see people all along the path and how they're evolving with their practice. That doesn't take away from your daily ritual practice, though. You want to have that time alone where you can go internal. A lot of times the meditative arts are referred to as the internal arts, and there's called that for a reason, in that you don't want any outside distractions. You don't want to be watching a video or listening to an audio when you're doing your ritual practice. Now, that said, not everybody has a meditation teacher that's close by and have access to that. I think videos and audios are a great place to learn, but they
Mm.
don't take the place of your ritual. Use those videos, use those audios or those programs that you're in to understand what it is you're doing. And then when you're doing your daily ritual practice, shut off all the outside distractions and just listen internally. And you'll get so much more out of your time and effort with the practice if you do this.
Okay. When you're meditating, is your intentions to clear your head? Because I've gotten mixed information on that in terms of I know there's a lot of styles of meditation, so it's always interesting to pick other people's brain about this. But is your intention to clear your head? And some people say it's not really to clear your head, it's really to sift and sort through all your thoughts that are coming in. So what are your thoughts on that?
So, with the meditative arts, we are always oftentimes trying to calm down the mind and come back to center with most practices, depending on what we're doing. However, I've been doing the meditative arts for 36 years. I've traveled around the world many times training with some very well known, amazing teachers in my time. And I've never met anybody that doesn't get distracted or have thoughts that take them off center. So anybody that tells you that, I'd be a little bit skeptical. That said, we do want to try to quiet the mind and slow those thoughts down with the practice. But, I've had so many people through the years come in and say, "Oh, I've tried the meditative arts, but it just didn't work for me. I couldn't quiet my mind." Somewhere along the way, people got this misconception that you have to reach this state of nirvana and quiet your mind and be in this blissful place in order to be
Mhm.
benefiting from meditation. And that's so not the case. Even with advanced meditation practitioners, they get distracted. And the idea is that, say you're doing a sitting practice or a movement practice or whatever it is, and you're doing your 20 minutes a day or an hour or whatever that is for you. And during that time, you get distracted 50 times. When you get distracted, you recognize a distraction, you use your posture, you use your breath, you use the movement if it's a movement practice to bring you back to focus. Now, two things are happening. One is you're building repetitions and understanding
Mhm.
the tools and methods from being in a distraction to come back to center. And through this repetition, you're being able to recognize the first sign of imbalance. So it doesn't take you 3 hours down the path before you recognize it and you make that change right away. Now, if you do that every day, 1 month, 5 months, 1 year, 5 years, you're going to get so many repetitions in that eventually, no matter what happens to you throughout the day, whatever distracting thing comes your way, you're going to be able to come back to center and approach it with more balance and more focus. And so this is one of the benefits from developing meditation, but don't feel like you're not getting it just because your mind's going off center.
Yeah, it's kind of like workout, I guess you're building the muscle,
Exactly.
mental muscle. Okay. Well, Jeff, I really appreciate all the information you brought to the table. Is there anything you want to leave the listeners with before I close it out?
Yes, I would recommend, starting small. Don't try and to take on too much and
Mm.
just be consistent. Think about your why. if you kind of like this idea of developing an evolving life practice, you can always check out theyieldingwarrior.com. There's a program up there. And if you go to theyieldingwarrior.com/book, you can get a free copy of my book there. And we'll talk about how I break down this method and teach these arts from a scientific method so you can learn how to build an evolving life practice. And the other thing is, what is real important is that you want to try to find a guide, somebody to help you, whether that's me or somebody else, because if you go onto YouTube, you're going to see a million videos out there that are teaching this and teaching that. And it's easy to get lost in the mix. And there's so many different methods of meditation and purposes to do this breathing strategy, this movement practice, this sitting meditation, whatever it is. It's easy to get off center and not have any kind of focus. And it's kind of like, if you've never watched the sport of basketball before and somebody gives you a ball and says, there's a net, go play basketball, it's going to be years before you even develop a couple of the skills. But if you have a good coach, they can help you come a long ways in a fairly short amount of time. And, life is short, your time is valuable. It's worth it to have somebody to help you. I've literally had students that have come into the academy here that have been training and doing the meditative practice for over 10 years. And they'll come in here and they've been learning from videos or audios, and they'll see somebody who's been training here for 6 months, whose practice is much more developed than theirs. And so having a guide will really save you a lot of time.
Hmm, okay. Well, Jeff, thank you for your time and your insights. For the listeners, I'll have Jeff's information in the description, um, as well as ours. If you want to be a guest on the podcast, email americangypsy@gmail.com. Thank you for listening. Peace.